This TFMR podcast is brought to you by your friends at JM Bullion. Visit jmbullion.com for all your gold and silver bullion needs. Welcome back to the TF Metals Report podcast highlights for the week of November 29th through December 3rd. These podcasts, about 20 minutes a day, are part of what you get as a member at TF Metals Report. We're your eyes and ears to the world. We give you this summary every single day. These podcast highlights are just a very small sample of what we discuss each day to give you a feel for how it works. So on Monday, November the 29th, after the week we had the week before, we're a little worried about where gold might go in the short term. It was obviously being capped at its primary moving averages. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, that happened to silver at the 200-day. So when we see this happening in gold, it makes us worry that there's some downside to come. So as the week began, we're a little nervous about that, and that was all part of what we discussed on Monday, November 29th. Here's gold on the daily chart. This is what has my greatest concern at this point. Notice the action of just the last 3 days after getting smashed Monday and Tuesday of last week, coming all the way down from 1850 all the way down below all three key moving averages each of the last 3 days. Look at how prices tried to open at or near the 50-day, rallied above, and then got immediately smashed back down. We've seen this kind of pattern before, as you can see with the other circles in this chart, which leads me to think the banks are ready to drop the hammer again. Will they use the Powell stuff? Will they use the BLSBS? Who knows? But given our experience with this type of capping, look what happened. Look what happened in early August. Look what happened in early September. Look what happened in early November before an immediate reversal after that most recent FOMC meeting. I don't know. I just have a feeling they're going to come try to hit us again, especially with silver falling below 23. Now, the only thing we got going for us is these previous caps. Look at the RSI is well above 50, like 50, 60, something like that. And here instead we're at 41, so we're already pretty little oversold. So maybe that'll help limit the downside, just like what we get down to, 1760 back in early November. But nonetheless, this just any time that they are really leaning on price to make sure it doesn't rally makes me nervous. Now again, some of this is related to the contract going off the board and no full rolls, just natural selling pressure from that. And maybe that's all part of it. But this type of thing just, like I said, just kind of makes me nervous. If you follow the precious metals, then one of the things you've got to keep a track of is the U.S. dollar as measured primarily through the dollar index. Now, of course, that just compares the dollar to a basket of other similarly worthless and devaluing fiat currency. But if the dollar's heading up and getting stronger versus those other fiat, then that's often a headwind for the precious metals. Now, the dollar's been rallying like crazy since June, broke out of its channel, as you can see on the chart that we discussed on Tuesday, November the 30th, but it's beginning to pull back. A lot of times you break out of a pattern like that, what was resistance becomes support. You'll come back and test it for support. That's what we saw on Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see if that continues to be support in the days ahead. All right, so look at the dollar. Here's going to be your chart to watch. Remember, what do we know? A trend line that was resistance, once broken, becomes support. You invariably come down, ride the line, test it for support, right? Remember, if you've been around here for any length of time, much less the last dozen years, you've heard me say that a million times. So here's our channel that the dollar's been in ever since the Fed first announced the interest on excess reserves and all that other jazz back in June. That changed everything, at least in the short term. Dollar broke out 3 weeks ago after that CPI move, right? Rallying on inflation and higher interest rates and all that stuff. Went from 94 to 97. Where do we tap today? At the low this morning of 95.50. Right on the top of that channel. So that's going to be the thing to watch. Can it fall back into the channel? If it does, it's probably going back down to the 50-day moving average, which is currently another point down to 94.50. But man, it sure bounced hard from that thing today. So we'll just have to see where that goes as we go through the week. It's not just the precious metals that we keep track of at TF Metals Report. Many of us are invested in some mining shares as well, and man, have they had a difficult year. Just a sector completely out of favor. We might hope for some kind of recovery once we get some tax loss selling behind us in December, and that's often how it works. But for now, the shares are getting taken to the cleaners again with a very tough day back on Wednesday, December the 1st. It was one of the things we talked about that day. Looked at the chart and looked at some levels we need to keep an eye on for support. And finally, GDX is pretty lousy, down a full point today, smashing down through those lows from early November that looked like, okay, look at this, we're rolling. When we were up there when silver was rolling at 25.50, we're up there at 35. Remember how much the GDX looks like a silver chart? You can look at it yourself, obviously. This is a level we got to watch. We need to recover tomorrow. Need to bounce from here, or we're heading down to 29. And very likely a new lower low. And again, I remember back when we went to 29, moved down through 31 the first time, back in September. I was worried about 24 to 26. 24 to 26! Down from 29, that's another 10%. Down from here, it's like 15. So, again, if you're not willing to just ride that out, hedge, go to cash, whatever you think you need to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You need to decide that for yourself. But you need to understand what the risks are, because this is a crazy time. Much like February and March of last year was a crazy time. Our Thursday conversation this week was with our old friend Alistair McLeod, head of research at Gold Money. Alistair's been a friend of the site since about its inception 11, 12 years ago. And he is an expert at all things in the global gold market, particularly things that take place in London. As you may know, big news coming up 1st of January as the Basel III regulations are finally implemented on the LBMA. A lot of misinformation, a lot of lack of understanding out there. We think we've got a pretty good handle on what's going to happen here at TF Metals Report. So, brought in Alistair, kind of clear it all up for everybody once more so nobody has too high of expectations for that first trading day of January. Again, these Thursday conversations are always free. You can come out at the site and access them anytime you'd like. So go there today and click on the link, Thursday Conversation with Alistair McLeod, if you'd like to listen. And you never know what exactly it's going to say because it's all seasonal adjustments and, like I said, guesswork. This month, it came in below expectations. That allowed gold to rise. Not initially. Went down all the way to 1766 in the wake of the report. But then with a strongly rallying bond market, with the 10-year note falling all the way to 1.35%, down 10 basis points, gold recovered. Reversed a full 1% and went out very near its highs of the day at 1784. Now, it's not time to take the rest of the year off just yet, even though I wish it was. We've got to get through the CPI data next Friday. Remember, it was after the last month's CPI data that gold took off. Well, that's next Friday. Then the week after that is the December FOMC. Okay, so once you get to about the 17th or so, then you can begin to shut it down. That's still 2 weeks away. So keep paying attention and come join us at TF Metals Report. It's going to be a very volatile 2022. If you need eyes and ears on the world, that's what we do. Check us out, tfmetalsreport.com. And thank you for listening to the TF Metals Report podcast highlights.